my timeline was rather astounding. I apologize to whichever client time was diverted to this task. I love you for it, nevertheless. Thank you very much. What a great thing to be in a warm place this morning. It's cold out there, but you've made the right choice of where to be this morning. And I want to say a few words to you about why that's true. The reason it's true has to do with the evolving nature of our profession and who lawyers are, and how we talk to each other, and how it is we do what we do for people who need our help. And I think it probably, one always has to sort of test one's sense of how the world evolves as one gets older. There is a tendency to think of times gone by as somehow simpler or easier. They didn't seem that way then. But I think one can say with some certainty that the profession is a very different place in many ways, different in ways that make it stronger, but also make it different. Just to give one single example, when Jim Casey and I were trying cases as a young trial judge and he as a young lawyer, you know what or maybe just one click behind that moment, you know what the bar looked like. Literally, what did it look like? In Evansville, which when I graduated from high school, or rather when I graduated from law school, had 350 lawyers. Everybody in the bar knew that there were two women. One was Ruth Walden, who had been in trust and estates and didn't show up in court very often, so you didn't see her. And then a second woman came, and then finally a third, and now, of course, there are 550 lawyers in the bar, and the bar in my home city looks very different, and I would say very richer for the change. But one of the consequences of that has been that the former crowd, being more monolithic, more often came at matters from the same point of view, and that wasn't a good thing, but it did make it easy to conduct conversations. Now we're in a position where many different viewpoints arrive, people who arise out of different backgrounds as measured by all sorts of ways. At the same time, the things that people ask us to do have become more complicated. I once, you'll be pleased to know I chose not to ask Justin to do this for me as I was writing my recent speech, but in one earlier moment to think about complexity of law, I asked a clerk to pull off copies of the acts of the legislature, just as one measure, for 3 different periods, as I remember, something like 1911, 1951, and 2001. Something like that. And of course you know exactly what the product of that was, that the acts of 1911 sort of looked like that, and the acts of 1951 looked like that, and the acts of 2001 took 2 bound volumes. This is on top of the Niagara of regulations, both state and federal. And sometimes even we as lawyers lose track of how law continues to grow and to sort of seep into places in our lives that even we don't recognize. My wife and I lived on Meridian Street. We decided that we were interested, didn't do this finally, but we were interested in putting in a lawn sprinkler, sprinkling the lawn. So we call a lawn sprinkling company, and a young woman who owned it came out, and she had one. She sort of measured, how many square feet of lawn are we sprinkling, and had one of those roller kind of measures, the little wheels that tell you how far you've gone. And she stood calculating all this, how many nozzles will I need, how many feet of pipe. And I said to her, as the guy tasked with mowing the lawn, is all this going to lie flush with the ground, or is some of it going to stand above the ground, so I'm going to hit it with a lawnmower every time I go through? She says, not to worry. It all lies flush with the ground, except for the backflow stop regulator. And I say to her, what is a backflow stop regulator? She says, oh, it's something the government makes us put in. Well, it had never occurred to me the government was interested in how I sprinkled the lawn. So I did what any upstanding appellate court judge would do. Trial court judges don't get to do this, but it's our privilege. I came home and I came to the office and said to one of Justin's predecessors, go find out what part of the government is interested in this. Just as a matter of curiosity, find out what this is and who makes us do it. And in due course, the answer came back. And I now own a backflow stop regulator, and I'm very much in favor of it. The object of this, of course, is that even a practicing lawyer can stumble into situations in daily life that are a total mystery to us. And if it's true for us, it's certainly true for the people who come in the door under some laboring under some difficulty in one shape or another. And what that means, sort of to the next point, is that how we are organized collectively to be better lawyers individually and as firms or as people who work in government gets harder for both of those reasons, and requires us to be more purposeful about how we're organized and what sort of education we ought to have, and how we tell who are the people who ought to get across the finish line by the Sun bar admissions, and then how we organize the practice and the courts and the other institutions that part of what you'll be examining these next few months.